Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to the Dragon's Lair. Today we are going to be talking about the Chiquita herself, Claire. So, let's jump right into it, shall we? Starting off with her strength score, she's not super strong, but she's not expressly weak either. The sample size is relatively low. The only thing I can think of is, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. We should be good. When she wrestles with Angor for a little bit, although she does eventually lose that, so that doesn't really bode well in her favor. For the score, I would go with somewhere around 8 to 12. I personally would go with 10, just because the sample size is so low. Into Dexterity, I would say this is where she is better off, simply because of how small she is and how hard she is to hit. Nobody can hit her throughout the series. Like, she just doesn't take very many hits because she's so small and so nimble. She's constantly moving across the battlefield, constantly going from one place to another, and she's just overall tiny and hard to hit. As for, like, stealth and things like that, she does sneak out, sneak around, do things like that. I do remember at one point in time she was sneaking around, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, we should be good. She was sneaking around Jim to try to figure out what monsters he was fighting, and she does actually wind up lying to her parents. Well, you know, that's a little later on. I'll leave it at that. As for her overall dexterity score, I would put it high, 16 to 18, 20 probably by the very end of it. Into Constitution, there is a little bit here that I would give to her. Like, she is at least partially Hispanic. You can't quite tell if she's full or just partial, but that's neither here nor there. So that's going to count for something, because I'm sure, knowing Chill and a few of my other friends, I'm sure at that point she can handle the spice. As for a few other things, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, having your body possessed and then, like, twisted and all that, it's a lot of weird things. You have to watch the show to know what I'm talking about, but that's going to count for something. So for her total Constitution score, I would put her at somewhere around 14, possibly 16. Into Intelligence. She is pretty smart. She starts out bilingual and teaches herself Troll, claiming it was pretty easy. Aside from that, I'm going to go ahead and say spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, we should be good. She is one of the main strategists for the group, constantly coming up with ideas and plans that are pretty good, and she is pretty good with riddles. She does wind up saving most of their lives in Gato's Keep, answering his riddle correctly. And in a school perspective, she is in relatively high-level classes. I don't know exactly what level, it's never really specified, but from what I understand, it's pretty high up there. So for her intelligence score, I would say she's pretty good. I would say 16 to 18, possibly 20 by the end of it as well. Into Wisdom. The score's alright for her. She is able to put 2 and 2 together and use that to formulate a plan that do generally work, or would generally work, if it weren't ignored. But then you have the whole spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, we should be good. We're gonna go search for this thing at this place that's extremely busy, full of human life that don't know anything about trolls, while this other troll is searching for us, trying to kill us. But it's okay. I'm gonna bring a key into Troll Market anyway. It's fine. I don't see how this could possibly go wrong. So you have that sort of instance where it's just like you didn't think that one through. Now those are relatively far and few between, but when they happen, they mess up a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and put her Wisdom score at around 10 to 12, just because, while she doesn't make those mistakes often, she does make those mistakes, and they are pretty bad. Into Charisma. She is generally likable, and does have a general, like, just aura about her that people are drawn to. She's a good student, so her teachers like her, and she's one of the popular kids, so people around her like her, things like that. Into things like Deception. She lies to her parents a couple of times, like when she, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, we should be good, although this doesn't really matter. When she goes to a Papa Skull concert, she has Jim stay and watch her little brother, while she goes out and has a good time. So it's things like that. As for intimidation and things of that nature, I would argue that having your body contort into a bunch of odd and different shapes while you're possessed would count, as well as summoning random black portals that can teleport you to different places. That would be pretty scary, I would argue. So there are things like that. As for her total score, I would put it around 16 to 18, possibly 20 by the end of it, just because of her general likability and her abilities that grow and she gets better at as time goes on. As for the straightforward build, she's obviously a human. I would go the normal human because she's relatively good at everything. I would go for her class. I would go sorceress or sorcerer as it's said in D&D, but she would technically be the sorceress. Whatever. Go shadow magic for the subclass or the sorceress origins. Then from there, you're gonna want to go with meta magics. Go twin spell, quicken spell, empowered spell, and seeking spell. That's going to allow you to get more casts, hit more powerful, and hit harder rather, and get more chances to hit. As for the any like feats or anything, spell sniper is a must. But aside from that, it would be up to you. As for the conceptual build, half elf makes sense, as I've previously mentioned. She seems to be at least partially Hispanic. And Fallen Aasimar could be an interesting take on that. For the class, I would go Warlock, specifically Archfey Patron, and Pact of the Blade because of her staff. I argued with Pact of the Tome to get more spells and things like that. Pact of the Blade, I think, makes more sense, so that's what I wound up going with. As for the invocations, you're going to want to go Beguiling Influence, Armor of Shadows, Eyes of the Runekeeper, Bewitching Whispers, Ascendant Step, Eldritch Mind, Shroud of Shadow, and One with the Shadows. If you couldn't tell, I had a lot of things that worked well with shadows because of the Shadow Staff, but that's neither here nor there. Other than that, that is all I have for you fine adventurers today. So be on the lookout for my next video, which will be on Blinky. We're starting to get into the trolls of the group, which will be interesting. All the links to my social media will be down in the description below, so feel free to check those out at any given point in time. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. And if you do comment, you may just help a DM in need. Other than that, I will catch you all later.